We're going to do some live de-rusting. I know a lot of our viewers that watch us have watched us because we do rust removal. That's the most popular video I have is rust removal, so I'm going to do one live, and I can answer your questions live. I can hopefully clarify anything that you want to know, and you'll get to see everything happen real time here. So what we have here is some rusty tools. I borrowed them. I don't have any rusty tools except for this pair of pliers right here that are pretty much stuck. They don't open at all. So they definitely need being cleaned up. We have another pair of pliers here that open and close, but they look pretty ugly. And we have some really crusty looking wrenches. I don't know if you can see that or not, but they're pretty ugly. So we're going to try to clean these up and make them look nice again. So what we're using, we are using food grade phosphoric acid. It does not have to be food grade. It just happens to be what I have here. This is 85% mixture. It doesn't have to be 85%. Anything over 40% is perfectly fine. So if you have 85%, you can dilute it down to 40%. Just add water, basically. You always want to add acid to the water, not water to the acid. So you put the water first, then add the acid to it. That's just been a rule of thumb for chemists. I don't think it necessarily applies to phosphoric acid, but better safe than sorry. So you've got 85% phosphoric acid, and you have ethyl alcohol. I don't know if you can see that or not. Ethyl alcohol, also known as ethanol. This is 70% solution here. It doesn't have to be 70%. I've substituted ethyl alcohol many times with hand sanitizer that contains ethyl alcohol, and it did perfectly fine as a substitution. I recommend having the proper product though, not using hand sanitizer. But if you're in a pinch, hand sanitizer is better than nothing. I don't recommend substituting the ethyl alcohol with any other kind of alcohol. I've tried different solutions. They don't work as good. So for the best results, use ethyl alcohol. It's available quite readily at most pharmacies. A lot of auto supply stores have it because they have ethanol that you can add to your engine, like to your gasoline. So you can get it in a variety of different places. As far as phosphoric acid goes, you can buy it in many different places as well. You can buy it at a pool supply store. I know Bears Concrete Etcher and Home Depot used to be phosphoric acid, but I've been told recently that they've changed their solution. So it may or may not be the right one. You'd have to read the container, read the ingredients to see if that's actually what it is, to make sure. Janitorial supply stores, cleaning supply stores, they sell phosphoric acid pretty much in its pure form. Also like tractor supply stores and farm supply stores. If you go to a farm supply store, then it's going to be labeled as milkstone remover, but it's going to be phosphoric acid. So I've already pre-mixed these. I've already got a mixture in this cup. So this cup is basically a half and a half mix of the phosphoric acid, and I've added a little bit of ethyl alcohol. I didn't measure it out. It doesn't have to be exact. I just kind of guesstimated on it, and it's good enough. It's not gonna make that much of a difference to be off by a percentage. Okay, so we have some rusty tools here, and what we're going to do is we're just going to dip the tools in here. Some of the tools I'm going to submerge for a little bit of time, and some of them I'm just going to dip them and take them back out again. And the reason being is just to show you the difference between leaving it long-term in the solution and short-term results. So that one I'm going to take out right away. I've now dipped it in there. Dip these pliers in. I'm not dipping them all the way to the top, so you'll actually be able to see a before and after of the results. It's always nice to be able to see the before and after of everything. You should always wear eye protection and gloves, of course, when you're doing stuff like this. And I'm not, but I'm being very, very careful. Now this one here, this is a chrome wrench. And I don't know what kind of results we're going to get with this. Chrome seems to have a funny effect with the acid depending on the chroming solution. So we'll see what that one does. And then we have a spark plug. I don't know, I guess we'll try it too. Let's see what it does with a spark plug. So we'll take that out. So there you have it. We have these guys here have all been dipped in the acid. And I guess while we're waiting to see results on these tools, we'll just talk about the acid. So if you're going to do body panels on your car, you're going to want to avoid getting this on your paint. If you get it on your paint, it can stain your paint. It'll change the color of it. It won't make it bubble or anything, but it will stain it and change the color of it. So you're going to want to avoid getting it on your paint on your car. And if you do get it on the paint, then just take a hose and rinse it off liberally with water, and that will neutralize it and make it so that it doesn't stain your paint. I've made this mistake before where I got it on paint and it didn't look so great afterwards. So luckily it wasn't anything important, but that's just something I learned from doing that. It was a bad choice. What else can I tell you? This will work on pretty much any metal that rusts, of course. Basically what we're doing is we're just changing the chemical composition of the metal. We're changing it from iron oxide to, I guess they call it iron ferrite. I'm not a chemist, so bear with me if I'm using the wrong terminology. I'm just a guy that fixes cars and likes to restore cars. So this solution, you leave it for 24 hours. It does all of its work in the 24 hours. You do not have to have it submerged like we have these ones here. We're just doing this as kind of an experiment. There's no need to have it submerged. You just need to get the area covered with the solution and let it do its job. You're better off not to let it sit on the item. So in the case of these tools, I'm better to flip them over. And when I flip them over, I'm just letting all the liquid dry off of them. I don't really want the liquid to sit on them. If you're doing a car, and say you're doing like the top of a hood or something like that, and you've left a puddle, or the top of a frame and you've left a puddle, I would recommend taking like a blowgun to it, blow the rest of the solution off, just so that it's not sitting there and pooling, because when it pools, it's going to leave a lot of white residue when it dries up and just make a bit of a mess for you. So it's better to have it so that it can actually dry off, it can drip dry. A lot of people ask me how I can get the solution to stick to what I'm spraying it on. You don't really want it to stick to what you're spraying it on. When you put it on, it has an instant chemical reaction with the rust, and it's working right now. Dog is barking. Sorry about that. If you took these tools and you dried them off right now, like let's say I take a towel and I dry them off as best I can, it's not going to make much of a difference from if I leave them the way they are. So it's not going to change much. So what personal body protection I must wear when spraying the undercarriage of a car on a lift? That's a good question. So you definitely need eye protection, and I would recommend wearing gloves. My personal experience, I've done this before without gloves. I don't know. The only thing that it will irritate is if you have a cut and it gets in your cut. It's sort of like getting salt in a wound. It's going to sting a little bit. So you're best to wear eye protection and wear gloves. And if you're under a car spraying onto a lift, then you've got all of those droplets and vapors in the air around you. I would also have breathing protection. So I'd want to use a respirator at least. I wouldn't use like an N95 mask. I would actually get like a paint respirator, something that's going to keep the chemical from going from you inhaling it, basically. I can't think of anything else that you would need for protection. It's not super caustic solution. It's just, obviously you don't want to get it in your eyes. You want to avoid getting it in cuts in your hands because it will sting a little bit. So if you look at these pliers, you can see it's bubbling up a little bit. That's it doing its magic and doing its job. And these tools are already starting to look better from what they look like when we started here. The ones that are submerged, they look about the same. Not really any difference between the ones submerged and the ones that are sitting out on the tray. Other than if we leave them submerged, they're probably going to get more residue on them. And in the case of wrenches, I don't know what you're going to do with them after this. You're not going to polish them and make them look brand new again, so I guess it doesn't really matter. But if it was a surface that you wanted to paint, you'd have all that white residue on it, and you'd want to try to clean that off a little bit before you paint. Good morning, Chicagoland area here, 6:30 a.m. Well, good morning, Chicago. So, speaking of paint, so what I recommend is when you're not when you're doing tools, but when you're doing car parts, when you're doing frames and car bodies and stuff like that, you want to leave the solution for 24 hours. You want to dry any stuff that's sitting on top off, of course. Dry any puddles off. Let it dry for 24 hours. Let it do its thing. After 24 hours, it will be neutralized on its own. There's no need to do anything else at that point. You don't need baking soda or water or anything to neutralize it. It will also etch the metal, so the metal is going to be ready to paint at that point. I don't recommend just painting it. You could use like a direct to metal paint or like a Tremclad or what's the other one? I don't remember the other one's name, but the rust paint that they have out there. You could use those. But only if it's something that you're not really that concerned with. If you're using it on a barbecue or, just some kind of frame that's sitting outside or something, like a table that's sitting outside, then great, you could use that paint. But I wouldn't recommend using that if you're doing a car because it is going to rust through again. Even if it's just on the frame, what you'd want to do is you'd want to get a good epoxy primer, spray that epoxy primer on, and then follow up with paint after that. We have, here, I have a phone right here. This is so much easier. We have Man and Watch Time saying 12:27 in the Isle of Man. Nice. So, where was I now? Lost my train of thought. So, yes, epoxy. So, my personal recommendation for epoxy, I use SPI epoxy, which is available in the States and Canada. I don't know about other places. That epoxy, it's called Southern Polyurethanes. I'm not sponsored by them in any way whatsoever. They're not giving me any kind of, sorry, the dog's barking. One of the problems with going live. I'm not getting any kind of perk from them or anything. That's just the product that I've used for years when restoring cars, classic cars, um, because I've done a lot of expensive cars for people, and they want the best of the best, of course, and that's the product that I've found to be the best. I've never found a bad review about it, and I love working with it. It sprays on nice. It gives a nice look to it, even though, you know, it's not going to stay in primer, but it doesn't matter. It looks nice. In the meantime, it has a nice even coat. It's easy to sand, or relatively easy to sand, and it's the only epoxy that I know of that has a chemical bond as opposed to a mechanical bond. So, like when you paint a car, you have to sand that car down before you apply paint. And what you're doing is you're putting scratches in the existing paint so it's not smooth. If you leave it smooth, then a year down the road, you're going to have paint flying off in the wind because it has nothing to stick to. So you have to scratch it up. You have to scuff it in order to paint it, at the very least. You'd also have to do that with you know, like in this case, this is etching the metal anyway. But let's say that you weren't using the phosphoric acid and you were using it on bare metal, you wouldn't have to scuff that bare metal up for that epoxy to stick to it. It's still going to stick to it regardless. It also has a window of 7 days. So if you applied epoxy and then 6 days later you decide you want to paint the car, you don't actually have to sand the whole car before you paint it. You can literally spray your paint right over top of that epoxy and it will be perfectly fine. Or you can recoat it with epoxy, or you can recoat it with body fill or with high build primer, whatever you want to put over top of that surface. You can do that without having to sand it, as long as you do it within a 7-day period. I believe it's I think it's a 24-hour window after you spray the epoxy, not to put anything else on it. You have to let it sit for 24 hours to cure, to a degree anyway. But then after that 24 hours, you have another 6 days to recoat whatever it is that you're painting. The next epoxy that I would use, bear with me here. It's called, I forget what it's called now. It's made by PPG, and it's called Amerlock 2. I found it available just at a regular house paint supply store. It doesn't even have to be an automotive supply store. I bought it literally at a house paint store. It's a marine epoxy. It can be applied down to temperatures as low as 5 degrees Celsius. And it's a really decent epoxy. I don't use that on classic car bodies, but what I have been known to use it on is frames and you know, frame components, differentials, stuff like that. I don't use it on the body of the car because I'm going to do body work on it, and I don't want to do my body work over top of that epoxy. Because that epoxy doesn't have the window that the other one does. So you'd have to sand the whole thing down anyway before you do your body work, and that just adds extra steps to it. And for me, it's about getting the job done as easily as possible and not having to do extra steps. I don't like working harder than I need to work, which is why I use this method to deal with rust. There's many ways to do this. You can soak these in molasses. You can soak them, you know, I've seen them done in vinegar. I'm not a big believer in vinegar, but I've seen people soak them in vinegar and have decent results. There's other ways to do this. There's 100 different ways. You can sandblast it. You can you know, they have laser rust removal nowadays, but that's going to be really expensive. So this is the cheapest, easiest, simplest, cleanest method that I can come up with. Something that works, that doesn't take a lot of time, doesn't take a lot of effort, it doesn't take a lot of money, and the products are pretty easy to come by, and you don't need any special tools. You literally need to buy 2 things in the store, 3 things, I guess, if you want a spray bottle, if you don't have one already, or you just go grab your wife's Windex and dump that in the sink, and there you got a spray bottle. But yeah, it's the simplest, easiest way to deal with rust, and you know, I was in the sandblasting business for years. We had our own equipment. We could do, you know, whole cars in hours. Like, it was a big machine. And even though we had that equipment, there was still times that I chose this solution to do my cleanup, because it just didn't make sense to fire up the machine to do, you know, a small little job when I could do practically the same thing with this and make a good paintable surface. If you have metal that has a lot of scale on it, a lot of flakiness and scale and stuff like that, you're going to want to take something to that, of course. First, you're going to want to hit it with a flop wheel or something like that. Some people say wire wheel. I haven't had much luck with a wire wheel unless it's really, really loose. If there's stuff that's stuck on fairly good, then you'd want to use a flop wheel, and that's going to take off the rough stuff, the loose stuff. Once you get the loose stuff off, then you can use the acid solution to neutralize the rest of the rust that's there. Wish my 22-year-old truck wasn't rusting away. Well, you must live in Ontario. Yeah, that's the problem these days, is vehicles rust really quickly. The newer they are, the quicker they rust, because the metal is getting thinner and thinner, and it's just less quality. So we've covered the painting part of this. Like I said, you don't have to do any neutralization. You could just go straight to paint after this process. But I always recommend using an epoxy primer. If you do this properly and you use a proper epoxy primer, then you will not have this rust come back again, unless you get, I don't know, it'd have to rust from the inside out. If you didn't treat the inside of the metal, it would take a lot for it to rust again. If all of our new cars that are made were epoxy coated before they were painted from the factory, we wouldn't have rusty cars. But of course, the auto manufacturers aren't going to do that, because they want us to buy a new car. So what brand is that epoxy? Spell it. As you say, wait 24 hours, acid to dry, cure, then paint. Is there a corrosion undercarriage paint or something like that? Okay, Robert. So the epoxy is called SPI, Southern Polyurethanes Inc. I'll actually type it out for you here. I have two phones on the go. There you go. And I would not tar undercoat your car after epoxy. That would be kind of pointless to do that. It's depending on what kind of car you have and what result you're going for. Are we talking about a daily driver? Are we talking about a show car? Those are all important factors to know. Mrs. Lake, you are beautiful. She says thank you. I don't know what I was talking about now. Getting distracted with messages. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah. So I need to know what kind of car you're doing, what you're trying to get as a result with it. If you're doing a show car, I definitely wouldn't put undercoating on it. If it's just a regular daily driver beater, then go for it. What I would recommend is, like, if it was a show car, then you would use a proper epoxy, and then you would generally paint body color. If you're just doing a car that you know that's a nice car, and you're just trying to make it last and make it so that it doesn't rust, then if you use the other epoxy I was talking about, which is called PPG Amercoat. PPG Amercoat 2 is the one I'm talking about. If you get that epoxy, you don't need to top coat it with anything if you're doing the underside of a car. The only reason that you would need to top coat it is if it's a surface that is going to be exposed to the sun, because there's not a lot of UV protection in epoxy primers. They will break down over time from the UV rays. So Robert, if you tell me what kind of car you're using and what you're trying to accomplish with it, then I can give you a little better direction with that. So I don't know, what's it been? It's been maybe 19 minutes now. So we've got our tools here. I don't know if you can see the results on here or not, but this wrench is definitely turning black. The rest is neutralizing on it. The pliers that I couldn't move earlier, surprise, still can't move them. It's going to take a while for these. And the acid is not a lubricant anyway. They might still not move after I'm done doing this. But if I give them a quick soak in transmission fluid when I'm done, then it'll free right up and they'll be good as new at that point. Trying to read comments here. Some of them aren't making any sense. Some of them are just a little thirsty. We got really off track with the comments. Okay. So Robert says, my daily driver, Buick Roadmaster. So it is not tar. Is there a corrosion undercarriage paint, aka Rust-Oleum type stuff? No, I would use the stuff that I was talking about. The, I'll put it in the chat, PPG Amercoat. And the PPG stuff is much cheaper than the SPI epoxy. So it's a good solution for a lot of people. I mean, for somebody that's doing a full-out show car, I wouldn't use it. But for people that are, using it as a nice piece, I don't want to say a daily driver, because I mean, there's lots of people that have in between a daily driver and a show car, such as Robert with his 94 Buick Roadmaster. Baby, can you plug my phone in, please? It's dying. All right, so interesting chat conversation going on anyway. It plugs into the side of that device that's on the bottom. Whoa.
Oops.
Whoa.
Okay,
Yeah, just put that bottle on top. It gives it a little bit of stability. There we go. Perfect. Thank you. I'll just move my stuff over to compensate for the movement here. Okay, so does anybody have any questions regarding this? There's a bug on my ear. I said there was a bug on my ear. Does anyone have any questions? Anything they want to know? How much for the acid? Well, it really depends on where you live. It really depends on where you live, and where you buy it from, what product you buy. If you can get it from a farm supply store, that's your best bet. It's going to be the cheapest there. I believe this one here, actually I could tell you, I'll post it in the comments at the end of the video because I have it in my bookmarks on my phone. I don't remember the company off the top of my head. I think it's called Lavelle. Yeah, it's called Lavelle actually. And it's milkstone remover is what it is. And it comes from a farm supply store for dairy farm supplies, basically. They use it for cleaning the milking equipment and the storage equipment and everything for the milk for the cows. So I paid, the last jug I bought, I paid $105 Canadian for a 10-gallon jug of it. And it was 65% concentrate. So you could dilute that down, 50% or a little bit more. You could probably dilute it in half and still get enough potency out of it. So you're going to get 20 gallons out of it for that price. So it's not so bad. Well, lovely rat, welcome to the channel. You're watching how to deal with rust. If you have rusty stuff, we're showing you how to fix it very cheaply. As far as the chat goes, I don't know what's going on, but we'll just go with it. I'm not concerned about anything anyone has to say. It doesn't bother me any at all. So we got quite a little sludge mixture in here. Don't know if you can see that, but it's just the flaky rust falling off and sitting in the liquid. Like I said, if I have these out, I'm going to take this wrench out actually, this particular wrench. I'll take it out just as an experiment to show that it's not going to be any different results than the pieces that are soaking. Got bugs flying at me here. It doesn't give you any better results to soak the stuff. So there's no reason to make it stick onto the car or anything like that. Just spray it on, let it dry off, and that's it. That's all you have to do. Now our chrome piece, our chrome wrench, starting to turn chromish again. The rest is getting neutralized on that end. It's only been a matter of minutes, so you're not going to have like superior results at this point, but you can already see a difference with the products that they're working. I like the recycling of the egg carton. Yeah, well, they're very plentiful in this country because every time we buy eggs, this is what we get. So we use them for whatever. We use them for insulation, whatever you can think of, we use them. So does anyone have any questions? Does anyone, I get a lot of questions in the chat after I make a video. People ask me a lot of questions. I just don't know if I've covered all the bases, but I'd like to hear what people have to say. Just bear with me for 1 sec. There's definitely some weird chat on here. Ford or Chevy? Well, me particularly, I'm a Chevy guy. If it comes to, I have to rephrase that, I'm not really a Chevy guy either. I'm a Chevy guy when it comes to trucks, when it comes to newer vehicles, but I'm more of a Dodge guy myself. I like Mopars because I like spending money on cars because one of the most expensive cars to have for a restoration project, but I just like the cars. Foxbox asked, did I take the vaccine? Are you talking to me, Foxbox? Robert says, how long would your rust conversion and then paint process approximately last on the undercarriage of a daily driver car? So, Robert, that could last as short as a couple years, as long as forever. It all depends on how you apply the product, what product you're going to apply afterwards, whether you're going to use, epoxy or whatever afterwards, and what conditions you're going to be driving through and stuff like that. If you apply the product properly after you've done the acid bath, and then you use, like, let's say you use the PPG epoxy that I was talking about, and you spray it on well so that you don't have any thin spots in it. Make sure that it's on there, 3 coats, I would say, just to make sure that you have coverage on it. If you do that, then it should never rust again. It's not going to rust from the outside anyway. If anything, it'll rust from the inside. Buick Roadmaster, I believe, is a full frame car, so you shouldn't even have that issue because you should be able to access the whole undercarriage of it. If it was a unibody car, then you'd have difficulty with that because you'd have the unibody frame rails that you wouldn't be able to get on the inside as easily. So let's be clear, says, just found your channel. Are you a gearhead? Well, I guess I'm a gearhead. I'm a car enthusiast. I like restoring cars. I like doing fabrication, stuff like that. I'm not much into mechanical stuff. I'm more into the cosmetics of the car, customizing, stuff like that. Sorry, I'm just trying to catch them on the chat here. What do you think about the Ford C-Max hybrids? I have a 2013 and keep a jumper box in it always. I don't even know what a Ford C-Max hybrid is, but sounds like it's not very reliable if you have to keep a jumper box handy. Be quiet, please, puppy. We're on the air here. My dog's trying to steal the attention here. Come here. Come. Come say hi. Come on. Come say hi. Come on, up. Nika, come, up. Oh, careful where you step. Holy, that's the puppy here. Oh. And she trampled me. All right. Thanks for visiting. Go back outside and bark. Ouch. She's not very graceful. 8-month-old puppy, that's what they do. They have no gracefulness whatsoever. So let's go over what you can use this on. You can use it on your car frames. You can use it on your car body. I'm just going to stabilize the phone here while I'm talking because it looks like it wants to fall over on the stand that it's on. So you can use it on the frame, on the body. It's not going to hurt your brake lines, your electrical, your rubber hoses, all of that stuff. It's not going to hurt any of that. So don't worry about that stuff. I think you can safely spray it in an engine bay of a car and not have any problems with that. I don't think it's going to affect it one bit. All right, there we go. Put a nice heavy tool on the phone stand to hold it up. I've used it on many vehicles that weren't stripped down or anything. It was just the original, the whole car there, and I've sprayed it on stuff. being worry-free about spraying it on anything, and it was never a concern. The only thing, like I said before, the only thing you don't want to do is get it on nice paint that you care about, because if you get it on your paint, it's going to stain it, and it's going to change the color of it, and you're going to have little droplets of darkness, or it'll most likely be darkness on your paint, and it will definitely be noticeable, and you will not get it off. So if you get it on your car, take a hose to it immediately and rinse it liberally with water. I've sprayed this on the inside of my compressor tank. Yeah, she is a little stomper. Yeah, I mean, it works for gas tanks, it works for compressor tanks, any of that stuff. Anything that's metal that can get moisture in it is going to rust, of course, and you can put this inside of a tank. Even in the case that you have like a compressor tank or a gas tank, you can get some small gravel, like the gravel you get for fish aquariums, for instance. You can get some of that gravel, put it in the tank with the solution, and you can swish the tank around, shake it around, mix it around, and it will take off any bit of scale that you have on the tank as well, so that it makes it nice and clean. It sort of acts like as if you were taking a power tool to it or something to take the scale off. So it'll just make it better, take any loose stuff off of it, so that stuff's not going to end up clogging up your tank later, clogging up your fuel or your air or whatever you're working on. So Robert says, yes, Buick Roadmaster is a full frame. Yeah. Thanks again for the rust conversion sealing info. Yeah, I thought it was, because the Buick Roadmaster is kind of like the Cadillac in the sense that they use, it's almost a truck. They put a heavy frame on it. They even use the bolt pattern for the truck wheels and stuff like that, because it makes them more solid, more comfortable, and makes them float down the road nice and smooth. Is it like Rhino liner? What are we talking about? Are we talking about the acid, or are we talking about the epoxy? And DB Douglas says, big dog. Yeah, she is a pretty big girl, and she's only 8 months now, so she's going to get even bigger. The tank is 80 gallons. I'm not that strong. Okay, yeah, that would make it a little bit more difficult to swish it around. Maybe what you could do is, if you could put it on some kind of roller system, if the tank is smooth and doesn't have any like outlets or anything on it. I mean, if it's a compressor tank, maybe it does coming out the side. But if you're lucky and it doesn't have any outlets coming out the sides of it, or if you can take those fittings off, you could always just roll the tank on some kind of roller system to work it around. I don't know. I'd have to invent something in my mind, but I'm thinking like a couple, a couple car axles with wheels on it that are side by side, and then put the tank on top. I mean, depending on how determined you are to clean it, you could do something like that. The epoxy spray. So that was the question. Is it like Rhino liner? No, it's not like Rhino liner. I don't know much about Rhino liner, as all I know is that it's a truck bed liner. I don't know as far as the resiliency of it, how it does on bare metal, and whether it's going to protect that bare metal or not. So I can't really comment much on that. But epoxy is kind of like, if you think of like a candy apple. If you take an apple and you candy coat it, it'll be preserved almost indefinitely. Whereas that same apple, if you don't cover it, then it'll rot, in a matter of no time at all. It'll start deteriorating. The epoxy is kind of the same thing. It encapsulates the metal. It has a chemical bond to the metal, So you can't chip it off. Like, it doesn't even chip off. It chemically bonds to the metal. And which means that you're not going to get rust forming, because rust needs oxygen. And without oxygen, rust can't form. So if it's sealed up properly with the epoxy, you put the right amount of epoxy on it, then it should never bleed through. You should never see rust coming through it again. I would say it's better than Rhino liner in the sense that you can paint it and you can make it look, show car perfect. Whereas Rhino liner, I mean, it's got a bumpy texture to it and it's not paintable. It is what it is. When you're done, you're done. That's it. Rhino liner is great for using, on the bed of your truck or something like that. But you wouldn't want to do your whole car with that. Obviously, it's not going to make your car look very nice. I've seen cars done like that. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of it myself. Have you broken ground on your house? Dig your water well yet? No, we have not. We're still waiting for the well maker guy, the Boomba maker, to get back to us and give us a quote on it. We have a particular guy in the neighborhood, but we haven't heard back from him yet. Are the SPI products more for professionals or what? A lot of professionals use SPI, yes. It's not generally something that, I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. I mean, if you want to do a proper job, it's the right product to get. You can go and buy a job mate saw. I don't know if you know job mate or not. I think that's maybe just a Canadian brand. You can go and buy a job mate saw if you're going to cut one thing in your life, and that tool will do that job. Or you can go and buy a good brand like Milwaukee or something like that that's going to last much longer. When it comes to epoxy primers, it's kind of the same thing. You can buy a really cheap epoxy primer, but it's not going to have the same results as what I'm talking about, and you're not going to have the same resiliency. So you get what you pay for is really what it comes down to. When you say professional, that's a very relative term because it depends on what you're calling professional. If you're a do-it-yourself car guy and you've done some stuff yourself, if you have a little compressor and a spray gun, then it's not so big of a deal to have the SPI epoxy or the PPG epoxy. I don't recommend using your paint gun for it because it's not going to have the same tip on it. Your paint gun generally has a 1.3 or 1.4 millimeter tip, and you're going to need at least a 1.8 millimeter tip to spray the epoxy. Depending on which epoxy you use. If you use the PPG epoxy, you're going to have to also buy reducer because you need to reduce it down. I think it's 30%. Yeah, 30% reducer to it. So, you're going to need some basic tools to be able to do the epoxy, but it's not out of the realm of possibility either for most people. I mean, most people can borrow their friend's compressor. They can buy a cheap paint gun at Princess Auto or Harbor Freight, wherever you may live. That's the Canadian and the American company. I don't know about in other countries, but I'm sure they have equivalent type companies that sell stuff. I know I can go to Princess Auto for $45. I can buy a gun that does just fine for what I need to do for epoxy. I believe it's called Raptor is the brand. They come in 3 different colors, blue, red, and green. I buy the red one because it's a 1.8 millimeter tip, and it gives me the best spray pattern that I'm looking for the epoxy. Oh, no, sorry, it's not called Raptor. It's called Viper. That's what it is, Viper. You don't have to be a pro, DB Douglas. You don't have to be a pro. It's not hard to learn how to spray, and it's especially not hard to learn how to spray epoxy. Epoxy is pretty forgiving. You can lay it on pretty heavy. It won't run very easily. I mean, you can make it run, but it's hard to make it run. And, in the end, you're going to sand it down anyway, so it's not that big of a deal if you do get runs in it. The main thing is you want to get good coverage. So what you want to do is you want to do a medium coat, wait for 20 minutes, come back, do another medium coat, wait for 20 minutes, come back, do a third medium coat. You're not going to have any holes in that. It's going to be solid then, and then you're not going to have any issues with it. And you'll never have to deal with rust on that particular area again in your life. Somebody says, whoa, both hands, what did you do? I didn't really do anything. That's just how it is. Life sometimes throws you a curveball, and this is the one I got. And you just learn to live with it and learn to cope with whatever situation you have. And believe me, there's way worse situations than what I've got, so it doesn't bother me at all. Hello, the blue crab. I've used a power sprayer to descale first. Had high humidity last year, and I'm installing a transmission cooler at this time to get the air temperature down. Yeah, you could use a pressure washer to descale, for sure. That works as well. There's lots of different ways to do things. So don't take what I say as the only way that it can be done. There's many ways to do things. And different jobs have different methods that make it easier, depending on what you're working on. Sometimes I like to just take a grinder and clean off metal. It depends on what I'm working on. I mean, something like this, I'm not going to take a grinder to this. Would be way too hard, first of all. I'd misshape it. Can you hear me now? Sorry guys, my microphone, the battery died in it and we lost sound. So I'm gonna have to try to go back on what I was talking about. You guys just seen me waving tools around and trying to figure out what I was trying to say. I don't know how long ago we lost the sound, but I'll start over with this. So the first wrench I took out of the solution was this guy here. As you see, it's turning a nice black color. It's neutralizing. And the rest is getting better. This one here is the one that I just took out of the solution. As you see, it's not doing anything for it because it was in the solution. It needs to actually dry up in order to activate the acid to clean the rust up. The pliers that I showed you, I was just showing you that most of the rust is neutralized on it already, where the solution got on it. Yes, thanks Rocky. Yeah, please hit the thumbs up guys, please subscribe, help my channel grow, and we're gonna do more stuff in the future, more car stuff for sure, and try to give you some more tips and ways to do things that make your life easier for working on your cars. We really appreciate all the support that we do get. So the wrench, I don't know if you can see the chrome wrench or not. It's hard to see on the camera. We only dipped the first couple inches of it, and it's cleaning up fairly decent. I have used it on chrome rims before and on chrome exhaust. A lot of the time the rims and the exhaust are pitted. It will clean it up somewhat. Obviously it's not going to fix the pitting on it, but it will make it look much better. So it can definitely improve it. You can come back and polish it after that and make it look even better. It's not going to look brand new, but I mean, you can make it look pretty decent. It's not going to be show quality, but you can make it look really good if you put the time and effort into it. Yeah, sorry about losing the sound, guys. I didn't realize it until I read the comment and saw no sound. And thank you, Robert. Take care. And hopefully we'll see you again. Robert has to go. So does anybody else have any more questions? Is there anything else you want to know? Even our spark plug is cleaning up pretty good. It's a pretty ugly spark plug. I'm not sure why I even had it laying around, but it must be useful for something. So this wrench here, I don't know if there's much purpose in leaving this in the solution. I mean, I don't know what we're proving by leaving it in there because it's not going to do anything sitting in the solution. It needs to come out in order to work properly. It's just, I've had so many people that insist that they think that they need this solution to stay on the product or on the item for a lengthy period of time for it to work properly. It doesn't need that at all. It needs instant contact and that's it. You can spray it, you can dip it, whatever you want to do. There's no need to leave it in the solution or leave it in a puddle of the solution. It's not going to make any difference for it. So on tools, what would you do after they dry? Wash them off, polish them? Well, I'm not really sure. I mean, I've never even done tools before. I'm just doing it because I've had viewers ask me to do tools. So I'm doing it to appease them. Honestly, if I have a rusty wrench like this, I'm not that concerned about it. It still works as a wrench. And if it's really that bad, I'll go buy more wrenches, I guess. I have my own wrench set here. They don't look like that. I don't leave them in the rain. So I don't think they'll ever look like this. This poor wrench has just been through, it's been through a lot of troubles. Actually, it's a fisherman that owns these tools, and I have a feeling that he had these tools on his fishing boat, which he takes out in the ocean. You know, you got salt water in the ocean, so that makes a lot of sense why these tools look like this. So, I get it, but I don't think my tools will ever look like this. Can't find hand sanitizer, we can find rubbing alcohol. Can I use rubbing alcohol? Um, I wouldn't use rubbing alcohol. I wouldn't use hand sanitizer either. Hand sanitizer is kind of a last resort. I would just try to get ethyl alcohol or ethanol. You should be able to get ethyl alcohol at auto parts stores, pharmacies. I mean, I'm in the Philippines. I can get it in many different places. Grocery stores, pharmacies. It's available lots of places. And things are hard to come by in this country. So if I can find it, people that are in, you know, North America and stuff like that, UK, they should be able to find it quite easily. You just have to look for it. If I, and Robert, just to add to this, when you're asking about what we would do with these tools afterwards, I guess what I would do, if I was trying to make them last a little bit longer, I would probably just paint them. I would just paint them to make them last. Like I'd epoxy them, most likely. Walmart has it. There we go. There's the solution for the ethyl alcohol. As long as you're in a country that has Walmart, you're all set. Someone told me a spark plug will easily break a window, like if you've driven into water somehow and need to pop the glass. Is that true? Yes, it's true. I guess the porcelain part of the spark plug will break the glass easily. I've never done it myself, but I've seen it done, and it works quite well. I put the solution in a pump sprayer and rinse the sprayer after. This is how I transported the inside of the compressor tank. Yeah, whatever works. Whatever works. You have to be creative sometimes to get into places that you can't get into with other tools. And I've taken like an oil sprayer gun before, put a rubber hose, like an aquarium hose on it, poke a bunch of little holes in it. I put a plug in the end of it so that the liquid can't come out the end, but I put a bunch of little holes in it so it's like a sprinkler system. Run that down a frame rail and spray it like that so that I can spray the inside of a frame rail with the acid or with whatever I want, and it will get, you know, on the majority of the inside of the frame rail anyway. Can't say it's going to get full coverage, but it works. It does the trick. It's hot enough here. Oops. Sometimes you just have to improvise. I mean, if you look at me, okay, sometimes I have to improvise anyway. There's simple little things that people can do so easily, and I have to fight to do the same thing, and it can be frustrating sometimes. You know, especially in situations where you need a hand up inside of something to hold one side of a bolt, and then a hand on the outside to thread the nut on. You know, situations like that. You know, sometimes most of the time I can use my arm, but if it's a long reach or something, it can be frustrating, and I have to be very creative how I make it work. And sometimes I use like a series of magnets or whatever I can get my hands on. There's a hand joke. Whatever I can get my hands on to make it work, and I will spend hours to make it happen because I want it to happen, and I don't necessarily have the help there handy, and so that's what I'm going to do because I'm going to make it work because I want to get the job done. And sometimes you just have to do that. I got no use for lazy people that say that they can't do stuff. You know, I've had people around me that
you ask them to do something, they're like, oh, I can't do that because of this or whatever. And I got no use for that, because if they really wanted to do it, they could do it. They just don't have the determination to do it, so. And that's just people that give up too easy, and I got no use for that. These pliers are moving now, so it's doing a little bit of work, but they're still gonna need a lot of lubrication to finish them off, to make them work properly. Well, hello. My kids just came home. Listen, my kids just came home. They weren't gonna wait till I got off the air, so. Positive, determined attitude is more valuable than any degree from anywhere. I call it stubbornness, is what it is. It's stubbornness. I want to get it done. I'm going to do it, and that's all there is to it, and nothing's going to stop me from doing that. Does this rust converter work to loosen rusted stuck bolts? Not so much. Unless you can get the solution right down in the threads, it's not going to do much for you. You're still going to have to use the methods that you've been using all along, with applying heat and everything else to get the rusted bolts out. Unfortunately, this doesn't solve that. But if you have the bolts out and you want to clean them up and reuse them again, and let's say that they're very rusty, they've been sitting in water or whatever for a long period of time, this will clean those bolts up and make them reusable again. If you spray this on and then just take a wire wheel to them afterwards, like a bench grinder with a wire wheel on it, just hit them lightly with that, just to shine them up a little bit more, it will definitely do the job and make the bolts just like new, make them glide back on, just as if they was a brand new bolt. So you can definitely accomplish that with this solution. I don't submerge the bolts because that's, counterproductive. So all I do is I put the bolts out on a flat tray, and I just give them a fairly liberal spraying, and then maybe I'll shake them around a little bit, give them another quick little spray just to make sure I've covered them all, and then that's it. I just let them sit for a couple days, a day or two, and they're ready to use. I can just clean them up real quick. Depending on what I'm doing, I mean, if I'm just working on a daily driver, I don't really care, then I just use the bolts the way they are. But if I want to make them look new, or if I want to, make them work really smoothly, then I take the bench grinder with the wire wheel and clean them up a little bit more to make that happen. Is there anything else anyone would like to know? I'm going to take a 2-minute break here, and I'll leave the chat on, I'll leave the video on, and if anyone has any questions, just throw them at me. I'll be right back. Lahat po. It's hard to talk for an hour. Your mouth gets dry, and you need a bit of a break sometimes. How long does the coating last when put back out in the weather after treatment? You're talking about the acid treatment? If you do the acid treatment and you stick the metal out in the rain, I would say like a month later you come back and it still won't have rust on it. After that, it's going to start to rust, of course. You can retreat it again, respray it, and it will go right back to the way it was the first time you did it. No big deal. And then you can just move on from there. What is the best sprayer that you use for spraying rust converter product? Well, let's see. I just use regular generic spray bottle. Windex bottle works just fine. You have an empty Windex bottle, fill it up, and away you go. As far as spraying it, in frame rails and stuff, like I mentioned earlier, you can take a rubber hose, put it on the end of like an oil spray gun, punch a bunch of holes in the sides of it, little holes, plug the end of it, put a cork or whatever in the end of it, or a screw to block it off in the end, and use it like a sprinkler system to go through the frame rails. Or if you have an access hole into your rockers, stuff like that, then you can get the acid into those areas. And if you can neutralize the rust in there, I mean, we're talking about 40, 50-year-old cars sometimes. Those body panels have lasted this long with surface rust on the inside. Now that you've neutralized that surface rust, there's no need to really do anything else after that anyway, because it's lasted this long, it's going to last that much longer. I mean, we're not driving these cars through the same weather that they were driven through when they were new. People abuse these cars really heavily. We're taking care of them a lot better. So once you've treated them, then they should stay good for the remainder of the life of your car, and definitely outlive you. Just dropped in to thank you for the tip. Well, you're welcome, Bob. I hope that this information is useful and helps everybody. I mean, there's a lot of companies out there that are making products that are pretty much the same composition as what I'm showing you here, and they're putting a name brand on it, and they're profiting largely off of it. And I'm giving this information away for free. This is my own research. This is my own science, I guess we'll call it. My own experimentation over life to find the best solution. And I'm just sharing it with everybody because what else am I going to do? Am I going to market it as another product? I don't want to do that. I want to help car guys. I want to save cars is what I want to do. Cars are our history, and especially when you get into anything older than 1980s, you've got something that will never exist again. And we need to preserve these cars as much as we can, need to save as many as we can, because generations way down the road will want to see these cars. They don't want to just see pictures of them and videos of them, they want to see the actual cars. So if we can save these cars and save history, then that's a good feeling to be able to do that. I think that's one of the reasons why I like cars so much and why I like restoring them and fixing them, is because I know that I'm bringing them back to life, and they're going to outlive me. When I'm gone, those cars will still exist. So I guess I've made some kind of imprint in the world where I've done something that somebody else is enjoying and somebody else is admiring, and even when I'm long gone, I've still left something behind. I mean, there's lots of people out there that do amazing things in the world. I haven't done anything that amazing, but at least I've got some kind of legacy. I've got something to leave behind, and some way that I've done something to improve somebody's life in the world. So it may sound, I don't know, it may sound crazy, I don't know, but That's kind of how I feel about it. Old cars are special and need keeping on the road. Yes, absolutely. We're never going to see cars like these again. I mean, the new cars now, there's nothing really special about them. I don't understand why anyone would collect them later on down the road, but I'm sure people said that about the 50s, 60s cars too, and all the way back to the first cars. They said the same thing, like, who's going to ever want to keep this car? After 10 years, I want to get a new car. I want to be done with this one. But here we are scavenging cars, and now we're picking up the worst projects ever, cars that are just absolutely destroyed, and bringing them back to life. And these are cars that nobody would ever bring back to life before. And we're bringing cars back to life that you know, 20 years ago people would say, I wouldn't even bother with that. That's just scrap. But the pickings are getting slim now, and you got to take what you can get. I watched it on one of your videos, and this live popped up, so I figured I would thank you on behalf of us old car people. Well, I appreciate that, Bob, and I'm glad you found me. I'm glad you found the videos, and I hope the videos are helpful for you. Jack says, I did try your product. It worked wonders on a set of rims that were probably trash, and now I think they can be repainted and reused. This will make my tractor last hopefully 50 more years. Thank you. You're absolutely welcome, Jack. If you want to make those wheels last, get yourself a good epoxy. You know, in the case of a tractor, unless it's a show tractor, if it's just a machinery that you're using, then you would want to try using the PPG Coat 2 epoxy. And it's a marine epoxy. It's really tough stuff, and it's really good stuff. And if you put that on, and you put the right amount on, you don't have any thin spots in it, so you've got good coverage, then you won't have rust issues coming through again unless you chip that paint out. You'd have to damage it pretty badly for it to rust again. We're really trying to grow this channel. We're trying to hit, we're trying to hit as many subscribers as we can, but we're trying to hit 9,000 subscribers because we need to grow the channel as much as we can. And then the more subscribers we get, the more views we get, the more likes we get, the more we can do to show people techniques and tricks and everything else. We're on limited budget here right now, trying to do stuff, so I'm doing the best I can with what I've got. Trying to support a family without an income is a little difficult, so I don't really have a lot of money to spare on projects and stuff like that. But if we can get things rolling, then I can start getting into more projects and do some fabrication stuff and, get into a lot more and hopefully be more entertaining in the future on the channel and make the channel grow even more. That's the goal anyway. That's what I'm hoping for. I'd like to do this full time and be able to, inspire people and help people and show them tips and techniques they might not know, or maybe help them, learn other ways to do stuff that they already know how to do. There's always new things you can learn. I learn every day from other people as well. I watch a lot of YouTube myself. I watch a lot of car builders and stuff like that, and I learn a lot from watching them, and I get a lot of ideas from watching them. So you never stop learning, and you never stop finding other new methods to doing stuff. If you've seen the way that I did, metalwork 10 years ago versus now, it's changed a lot, and it's changed because I have experience and because I've learned from other people. I've learned new techniques and stuff like that to do an even better job than I could do then. And people thought I was good then, and now I look back at that and I'm almost ashamed of some of the jobs I've done because I just know now with the skill that I have now I could have done better. So don't ever stop learning, because you don't stop learning. If you stop learning, then you're doing something wrong, and that means you've closed your mind off to new experience and new suggestions. I have a lot of people suggest on my channel that I can remove rust this way and that way and this way and that way. Most of those methods I've tried, and I didn't like them. Maybe not because they didn't do the job, but maybe because they were messy, they were expensive, they were whatever. This is, my experience that I'm trying to hand off to others, to save them the trouble of going through all of this experimentation and just cut right to the chase. And, in many circumstances, this is a good way to do what we're doing here. It's not the only way to do it, but it's one of the best ways to do it. And it's the most affordable, easy way to do it. You don't need to invest a whole lot of money into tools and stuff. Any guy can do it. I mean, if you have a box trailer that's rusty, and you're just an everyday guy, you're not really a handyman or anything like that, you can still take these products and do the same job. And there's no big secret to it. And as far as the epoxy goes, I was thinking about that just now when I was talking about the PPG epoxy. You don't even have to have a spray gun to put that epoxy on. If you're not going for, a smooth, perfect finish, you can brush this stuff on, and it'll do just the same job. You can brush it on, use a roller with it, whatever. Just make sure you cover it really well, and you're good. So you don't need much for tools to do this. A lot of people do that for a living. They buy trailers that are rusty and ugly, and that's all they do is they just clean them up, paint them, and then sell them again. They make a lot of money doing that. So it doesn't require any tools. It requires a little bit of labor, but it's not too bad. Pretty easy money. So I can sit here and talk till I'm blue in the face. I don't know how long people want to watch me for. I don't know what else to tell you. We can show you some results. We got a pair of pliers. You can see where I submerged it. Pretty obvious. We've got an adjustable wrench. It's cleaning up quite nice. I mean, we're not going to go back to a nice chrome finish. Obviously, it's not going to make it there, but at least we're getting the rust off of it and making it functional. The adjustable wrench is now somewhat adjusting. It's not working wonderful, but it's working. With a little bit of lubrication, it could work good as new. So we got the chrome wrench. We did the end of it there. You can see it cleaned up pretty nice. We got these pliers here. And they're working quite well. And they look pretty decent. This is the wrench that we had submerged for, I don't know, half an hour. And it's looking good. This is the wrench that we simply just dipped and took back out again. So as you see, there's no difference between these two wrenches. It makes no difference at all. So there's no need to submerge it and wait for days with it submerged in the solution. It's not going to do anything different. This is the wrench that we took out recently, and now you see it's starting to activate. It's actually starting to clean up. And that's pretty much it. And then we have the original wrench that we left in the solution, just as a control subject. Just dry it off here a little bit. I'm gonna drip the stuff all over the place. And as you see, it's not doing anything yet. But if I leave this guy out now it'll actually start working. You can actually see it starting to work. Right now, you can see it already working. You can see it working live. It's starting to turn black. So no need to leave it in the solution. What I'm drinking here, this is phosphoric acid as well. This is Pepsi. Most colas have a certain amount of phosphoric acid in them, and that's why you might see some people that use Coca-Cola to deal with rust, to deal with corrosion, and that's exactly why. It's the phosphoric acid in the Coca-Cola that neutralizes the rust. There's a very small content of phosphoric acid in it, and there's a lot of sugar, carbonated water, other stuff that you don't need. So basically, you're just taking the active ingredient out of the Coke and using that directly to do the same thing. If you're in a pinch, you could use a can of Coke, of course, but it's not going to quite work as good as this. You can use this for corroded batteries. If you have corroded battery terminals, it works great for that. You can pour it on there to clean your corrosion off. It works on many different things other than just cars. It replaces a lot of household products. You can use it for cleaning your taps and stuff like that. I've cleaned calcium deposits off of a tap that didn't even flow water because it was so plugged up, and it just took a cup of my solution and propped it up so that the tap was submerged in it, left it overnight, came back the next day, and the tap worked just beautiful. I actually have a video of that on my channel. I use it for wiping plastic door panels in cars. When I have really dirty panels that have been sitting around in the barn, in the dirt, whatever, for, who knows how long, and I want to get them back to looking shiny again, I'll clean them up with soap and water first, get most of the dirt off them, and then I'll use this solution, and it just shines up the panels and makes them look nice at the end. So there's many different uses for this spray, and like I said, it replaces a lot of different products, and it's cheap, it's easy to find, it's easy to make, it's easy to use. How well does it work on rusted chrome? Well, like I mentioned before, if you have like pitted rims or a pitted bumper or something like that, and you use this on it, it's not going to make the chrome come back and look flawless. It's going to look way better. If you look back in the comments section, actually somebody just mentioned not too long ago that they used it on chrome, and they said that it worked fantastic for them. So that's another testament to how it works on the chrome. If you use it on the chrome and then you polish the chrome afterwards, like what I've done in the past is I've sprayed it on chrome rims that were pitted. They had some minor pitting. They weren't heavily pitted, but they were minor pitted. So I sprayed it on the rims. I left it for 10 to 20 minutes, just until I felt the urge to clean it off. I didn't want to leave it on too long because I don't want it to lift the chrome plating off the rim. It all depends on the quality of the chrome as well. I know when you buy rims these days, they're not very well done, so I don't trust them too much. So 10, 15, 20 minutes, and then I spray them off with water, and then I'll take quadruple zero steel wool, and I'll polish them with that steel wool to clean off any debris or whatever that's on them. Hello. And then you can go to the next step of polishing them with a polishing pad and a polisher. Don't drink that.
I do that.
Yeah, you can throw it out. You can polish them with a polishing pad and a polisher and make them look nice again. Now you're gonna have, like this chrome wrench here, you're gonna have the odd little black spot on it. If I take steel wool to this and I polish this right now, most of this blackness will come off, and it'll leave just a couple little divots here and there. So it'll actually clean up pretty nice. We're just at the end of it, not the whole thing. I did not dip the whole thing. Yeah, so like, I mean, it's not gonna make them perfect, but it'll make them look a lot nicer than chrome rims with a bunch of pitting and rust spots on them. So you're definitely gonna look better than what they do. Other than the next step after that is what? Re-chroming your rims? Well, that's gonna cost you more than your rims cost in the first place. I know in Canada anyway, to get a set of rims done, I don't know, if I'm gonna guess, I'm gonna think off the top of my head, it's like $2,000 to $3,000 to get that done. It might even be more than that now, I don't know. You could buy a really nice set of rims for that price. The other option is, if they're, too far gone and you want them to look perfect, you can always take them to get the media blasted. Crushed glass is probably the best option. You get them blasted in crushed glass. I've done this before, which is why I'm suggesting it. You can blast them with crushed glass. I've had some really ugly rims that I've done like that. The chrome was really bad on them. And then after the crushed glass, then I epoxy them and I paint them. And I mean, painted rims aren't as nice as chrome, but if you have a nice set of rims and you don't feel like going out and buying brand new rims with, with chrome on them, and you can live with painted, then maybe that's a good solution for you. Painted rims don't always look that bad, especially if you match the scheme of the car with them. They can look pretty good on most cars. So, hi.
Hi.
Welcome to the channel. This is my wife. She's been waiting for me to get off the air, waiting patiently. Do you have anything to add about rust?
No,
You don't want to talk about rust?
I don't know about it.
You don't know about rust. She's the one that taught me everything I know. She's just shy. I'm looking at two different phones and I have messages different on two phones, so I'm confused now. I just shared the live stream with my better half. I hope she drops a like. Well, I hope so too. I appreciate that. It's weird that I have two different... Oh, it's just not cut up on this one. That's what it is. Slow internet in the Philippines. Jack C says, thank you for your channel. Well, thank you for watching my channel. If it wasn't for my viewers, then my channel would be useless.
I am the phone.
Hmm? Oh, now it refreshed. Okay. You're just frozen?
I don't know.
Hmm.
It's working, but not such
This is my second live stream today. We already did a live stream earlier. We were trying to hit 9,000 viewers. It didn't work out so well. We didn't have a lot of viewers. We had a couple people come on, but nobody really stayed to watch the channel. So I thought, well, if I can't get their attention with that, then maybe I'll do a live Rust feed, and at least I'll have that audience entertained. The audience that doesn't want to watch us eat dinner might want to watch us clean Rust.
next time. But wow.
So, yeah, so that's looking pretty good. I don't know if you can see the difference on camera. I'm sure you can. I can see it. Looks quite different than what it did originally. Here's the wrench we took out last. Still in the process. It's going to take a while now because it got really wet. It needs to actually dry off a little bit before it'll start really doing a good job. And this guy here still has a ways to go. And it's not a big deal. If you have really, really heavily, deeply pitted rust, sometimes it won't come perfectly clean from the first spray or whatever. And it's not a big deal. Just take another 24 hours out, give it another quick little spray, wait the next 24 hours, and it should be good. I mean, or sometimes you just miss an area or whatever. It's no big deal. You can come back and respray it, and it's not going to hurt anything. You could respray it over and over. It won't cause any problems. It's not going to eat away at the metal or anything like that. Not like, muriatic acid is another option that people use for rust removal. It can be used, but then you have to worry about how long are you leaving that on for, because it will eat the metal. You have to worry about how long you're leaving it on for. You have to worry about whether you neutralized it properly, whether you neutralized every last bit of it. I mean, what if the stuff gets into your pinch welds and stuff like that? You're not going to be able to get it neutralized necessarily, and then, it could happen a year down the road after you've painted your car. You go to a car show, you're driving home, you get a little bit of rain, that rain reactivates that acid, and you get home and, you know, maybe a day or two later, you notice there's a bunch of bubbles in your paint where the pinch weld is. And that just ruins your whole paint job. So I wouldn't use the stuff. I don't trust something like that. It's too strong for this purpose. So I don't recommend using muriatic acid. Yes, it will work, but it's you know, scary because it never really goes dormant unless you neutralize it, and you can't necessarily get at every last bit of it to neutralize it. So at least this solution, you know, it goes dead on its own. It neutralizes itself basically. There's no need to neutralize it. It goes dead on its own, and it doesn't have any long-lasting effects to it. So like I said, there's more than one way to do something. This is just the way that I suggest doing it. This is the way I do most of my things. I don't do everything this way. Sometimes I sandblast. It depends on what I'm looking at. If I have a car that's all original metal, and let's say it's like metal that the paint's worn off and it's pretty much down to bare metal and it's just surface rust, then yeah, I would just use this. I wouldn't even bother doing anything else. If it's a car that's been fixed 50 times and it's got, you know, quarter inch, half inch of Bondo in it and 18 layers of paint, well then yeah, I'm going to want to sandblast that because I want to bring it down to workable metal again. And I'm not going to spend, you know, days with a sander or whatever to take all that stuff off. He says, I'm dropping out now, got to talk to my LDR. Where is your LDR? Is your LDR in the Philippines? I'm asking you that because that's an expression that Filipinos use. And I don't know how many people actually use it other than Philippines. Maybe he's gone already. I don't know. Any more questions? Anybody have any questions, comments, anything you'd like to say? Please subscribe to my channel. Hit the like button. All that stuff helps me. It helps us. It helps us to grow the channel. It helps us to bring you more content and bring you better videos in the future and bring you cooler stuff than removing rust from tools. Oliver Ray comes in. He says, "Can you repeat, please? I wasn't there." Well, let's see. There's been an hour and 39 minutes of live feed. I don't know if I can repeat all of that again. It's going to be a little bit.
Yes,
I can't read. Can I have that?
but she's in Dogger right now.
Just came across your channel. Are you in Central America or Asia? The reason I ask is because I grew up in Belize and our homes are identical. Even the type of paint and windows are similar. Actually, we are in the Philippines. But yeah, I know that there's, it's the same kind of products that they use in a lot of different countries. Same style with the slot windows and stuff like that. And then the gentleman I asked about his longest relationship, she lives in, she's from Quezon, but she's in Baguio for the weekend. I remember talking to you. You were on my last live feed last week, I think. I believe it's the same person anyway. And Errol says I just subscribed. Well, thank you, Errol. I appreciate that.
Did we hit 9K now?
If you look at my channel, you'll see a lot of car stuff. If you're a car guy, I have a lot of car content. Hopefully it's interesting stuff, informational stuff, maybe stuff you can get amused by or help you with or whatever, who knows. Remember, subscribing and likes and all that stuff are free, and it does wonders for us. So it just takes a click of a button to help us out, and we appreciate that. It just helps us make our channel even better. It puts us higher on the list. It gets us higher in the algorithm, and the more views we get, obviously, the more successful we are. The more successful we are, the more we can do to show our public. So should I stay on here for the 24 hours until these tools are all done? Should we just keep the live feed going for 24 hours? I don't know if anybody wants to sit here and watch these tools change ever so slowly. This is so cool, a person that actually interacts with his viewers. Yes, I know, I noticed that. I noticed I've looked at some other live feeds and people just ignore the viewers, except for the ones that send money. If they send money, then they say hi, but other than that, they don't interact with them. If you look at my channel and you look at my comments on my channel, I interact with almost everybody that leaves a comment. I interact with almost everybody that leaves a comment, so I try to anyway. I don't know, if we get a couple million subscribers, I might not be able to keep up, but right now I can keep up, so I'm willing to take the time out for each individual person, and I write a response to every comment that I get, much as I can. Because I know myself, I've made some comments on a few different channels, where I'm asking for more information or something like that, and the people that have the channel never have gotten back to me, and it's kind of frustrating, because you ask a simple question, trying to be successful with what they're teaching you or telling you or whatever, and you're not getting the answer that you need. So I don't know what else to say here. Should we just sign off the channel? You guys want to stay on? Do you have any questions? Anything more to say? Anything more to talk about? It doesn't have to be about Rust. It could be about anything. We could talk about anything here. Yeah, those ones are still stuck. That's okay. I have a way to free those up. What's your favorite channels to watch? Well, I don't have necessarily favorite channels. I have more of favorite content. I like seeing people that don't have professional shops, don't have professional tools, that do decent work. I've watched, there's a guy called Fitzy Fabrication. I've watched him quite a bit. He's pretty good at fabricating metal that's been rusted out and replacing parts of panels and stuff like that, and bringing them back to life. I watch Bad Chad sometimes. He's also a Canadian YouTube channel. He has a lot of creativity. He makes a lot of cool looking stuff. He's got a creative mind, and so I like watching that. I just like watching anything different. I'm not much into watching guys that are into nut and bolt restorations, getting everything so that everything's perfect, numbers matching, all of that stuff. It doesn't really interest me too much. I like watching like Rust Brothers. I don't know, what else do I like? Trying to think here. I don't know, there's a lot of car shows out there that I like watching, but I don't like watching the guys that are part swappers. I find that irritating. Like the professional shows they have on Discovery, like trucking, and I don't know what else the other ones are called, but where the guys are like, yeah, so we just picked up this car, and now we just bought $30,000 worth of products all in boxes here, and we're going to put all this stuff on the car. And I mean, I don't see the point in that. It's not within most people's reach to do that, and that's not my style. So it doesn't interest me to see somebody take a car, strip it down, and put all brand new bolt-on parts on it. Anyone can do that if they have money. That's the easy way out, to actually take a car and fix everything on the car, and do it without having to replace everything, to me, that's way more of a science and way more of a skill. But I don't only watch car shows on YouTube either. I watch a lot of other stuff. Um, I don't know. I like watching a lot of SpaceX stuff. I find that interesting. I don't know. I try to watch educational stuff as well. How to make certain kinds of tools, different ways of techniques of doing things. I like educating myself, but then sometimes I just like watching stupid videos too. So funny videos. I'm all over the place with my taste. I mainly watch YouTube Shorts, and my phone knows what I want to watch, so it shows me the content that I want to see anyway. Yeah, people don't fix anymore. They just replace it and charge an arm and a leg. Exactly. There's very few people out there that want to fix anything anymore. They want to just rebody a car or whatever. They don't want to actually fix the panels that are on the car. For me, it's a matter of my time versus the money it's going to cost to replace it. In the case of Mopars, sometimes the panels just aren't available. You know, like I restored my 69 Super B, and they don't make fenders for the 69 Super B. They don't make front fenders, so that if you don't have fenders, then you can't fix the car. And my fenders were really tough. Somebody had patched them up years and years ago. I was able to fix the one fender I had. I had to make 3 pieces for it, but I was able to bring it back. The other one was pretty far gone. The dog leg and everything on the inside was rotten, and it was pretty bad. So I ended up buying a 68 fender, which has a completely different headlight bucket in it. It's the same shape of fender, but the headlight bucket is completely different. And I spent 3 days dissecting the headlight bucket out of the one to put in the other, and try to do it so that I didn't damage the new fender or the headlight bucket I was trying to take from the donor fender. It was 3 pieces of metal that were sandwiched together, and it was really difficult to get at to separate it. But anyway, I managed to separate it, put it together in the other fender, made it look factory. As far as the round hole goes for the signal light, didn't matter because or for the side marker, didn't matter because I shaved the side markers anyway, and I had to shave the trim holes too because it was trim in that fender. It was off of a Coronet, I guess, that had trim on it. So I had quite a bit of work to do that fender, but I got the fender to work for the car, and I didn't have to go out and pay $2,000 for a fender from somebody else that I would have had to do some work on anyway. So it's a sense of self-satisfaction to be able to bring something back that, you know, otherwise you couldn't do, or you'd have to throw a whole bunch of money at it to make it happen. But in the case of like a floor pan, for instance, my floor pan in my car had a lot of little pinholes in it, and I went around and I tried welding up these holes, you know, taking a copper backing, putting it on and trying to weld them solid again, get rid of the little pinholes. And the more I welded, the more I blew through it, and the more holes I found, and I was just chasing it. And I finally decided that this is stupid. For $500, I can replace the floor pan and have a brand new one and never have to think about it again, because I'm worried, you know, a couple years down the road that this floor is going to be fatigued and it's still going to have problems. So I bought a new floor pan, I cut the old one out, put the new one in. It was a good decision. So fixing it isn't always the right solution. Sometimes replacement is. It depends on the situation. I did a 72 Charger recently. It had, it came with one aftermarket panel, the passenger side, quarter panel, but apparently AMD has discontinued the quarter panels for that car now, and I didn't get a driver's side. And I guess whoever had the car thought the driver's side one was easily fixed, so they didn't bother buying one. I ended up having to make a mirrored image off of the new quarter panel that I got for the passenger side. And I just made paper templates of all of the shapes of the fender, of the quarter panel, and then reversed the pattern. And I made a quarter panel for the other side out of that pattern. Am I familiar with a YouTube channel called Canadian Prepper? I've never heard of Canadian Prepper. I'll take a look at it though. I'll look it up for sure. Blade Runner sent me a message and I cannot read it. It's in Russian. I don't know what that is. That's not something I understand, and I don't have a translate button, so I don't know what the message is. Can you translate that and send it to me? Canadian Prepper sounds like somebody that does body work and stuff and gets the car ready for paint. I'm assuming that's what it is. Table again. Don't forget to like and subscribe, guys, please. We really appreciate that. Trying to get our channel off the ground. Make it a useful channel for everybody. Hopefully bring you lots of good quality videos. You know, we do more than car stuff, of course. We're doing a little bit of everything. You know, maybe eventually we'll split it up into more than one channel, but for now we're just keeping all the content on one channel. So we have a pretty diverse audience. We have people from different walks of life that watch us for different purposes. We have the car guys, and then we have the people that are interested in the Philippines and foreigners living in the Philippines and stuff like that. So we have a pretty diverse audience. We appreciate all of your support, and we want to keep bringing videos for all different categories so that everybody has something that they can get from this channel. I want to see how to make a body panel from scratch. Well, that can be done, Jack, but it's a lot of work. I don't know if I could make a body panel from absolute scratch. I mean, if I'm trying to make a custom panel, maybe I could do it but I would start with like round rod. Actually, you know what? I can give you an example of sort of a panel. I made side scoops for a car, and I made a roll pan for a car. Or roll pan, like a valance. And I made those from scratch. And if you look on my channel, you can find the side scoops and the valance, and it kind of shows you an idea of how to make a body panel from scratch. It's not a whole fender or quarter panel, but you know, it's still pretty detailed stuff to be able to make it. And all I did was I made it with 1/4-inch round rod, bent the round rod to the shape that I wanted. I made a template and followed the template to make the pattern, so that I could make the pattern twice for the side scoops, of course, and twice for the valance too, because I had to make 2 different sides. So I made 2 sides basically and put them together. But it gives you a good idea on how you can make a body panel anyway. He's a prepper as in like preparedness, and he provides mostly an unbiased political view of current events. Okay, so I was way off. Not what I thought it was. I'll take a look at it. Take a look at that channel. Hopefully that's what you're talking about, Jack. with the making the body panels. Like I said, it's not making a quarter panel, but it's the same fundamentals. It's just a little bit smaller, and it can be done. If you have a quarter panel or a fender or something like that, and you want to copy that, then that's much easier to do. If you're just trying to make it from a picture or something, it would be really difficult to get it right. But if you're making something custom, like a custom body panel that's different than anything anything that exists already, it'd be easier to do that than to try to replicate something without actually having it in front of you. But if it's in front of you, you can literally take the panel and make cardboard templates of all of the different lines on the panel. And it's really not that hard. You can make a cardboard template of it, and even if it's a reverse side, you just flip it over, and you can use that pattern to make all those pieces. And it's not so bad. It just takes a lot of time and a lot of patience. Like, it's not going to happen really quickly, but you need a lot of patience to do it, for sure. Any other questions? I think we're going to cut our broadcast now because it's getting late for me here. And it is, sorry for shaking the table, we're 2 hours into the video. So what we'll do is we'll show you these things one more time. 2 hours into the video, and we've got pretty successful rust removal. I'll try to get this on a better angle in the light so you can see. That's pretty clean. This one here, pretty clean. I can see a couple spots on it that could still use a little bit more. No big deal. I can go back over that if I want to. This guy here, pretty clean. These guys here look pretty good. The chrome wrench, you can see where I dipped it, about an inch from the bend there. Now we got the adjustable wrench right there. Still got a little bit of chrome left on it. And then the final wrench that we took out is now turning black. So it's starting to look proper now. Oh, and not forget the spark plug. The spark plug looks not too bad as well. You could actually use this in a pinch, I guess. Alright guys, well thank you for watching the channel. Oh, we got one more question. Have you tried ultrasonic cleaner? I haven't tried ultrasonic cleaner. I've seen it in action on videos. It looks like it works pretty good. I can't see why it wouldn't work, that's for sure. You've also got, I don't know if it's different than electrolysis or not, but you've got that option as well, and electrolysis definitely works. The problem for me is most of the stuff that I'm trying to clean rust off is too big to put into something to be able to use that method, so that's why I tend to not use that method myself. To me, this works just as good for a surface that I'm going to paint. It works just as good, and it's going to do the same job as what I need. So that's why I don't use those other methods. You need a lot of extra equipment for that. You need a big enough bin to be able to put your parts in. You need a power source. You need whatever, and you need a lot of time too. There's a lot of fumes that come off of it, so you can't do it indoors, which limits me because, well, doesn't limit me here, but it limited me in Canada because, the weather's not always nice there. So there was a few downfalls for me to be using that process, and that's why I didn't use it. And got one more question. Oh no, it's just a comment. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to end the stream now. Thanks for watching, guys. Please subscribe, please like, comment. Even after the video's gone, you can still comment. And stay tuned for more. We'll try to bring you more videos and bring you more information in the future here. So thanks a lot, guys, and have a great day or night, wherever you may be. Take care.